Hi everyone, this is Linda, and this is to create a needle keeper that I had originally done way back in 5D, 6D days, and I rewrote it for Creativate just to see if how easy it would be to redo it. So I'm just going to get started on this, and it's kind of a pretty quick and simple one to do, but I thought it would just be kind of fun just to kind of do one. So let me get started. We're going to go into File, and I'm going to do a new window. So I have a brand new window to start with. Okay, so with the new window, I'm going to do a blank canvas. And the hoop size I want is 120 by 120. And I'm going to put it in a natural position. Not that it really matters because it is square. The other thing I'm going to do, which I normally don't bother doing, is going into File, and this time I wanted to do this. I'm going to go into Configure, Export, and make sure that Combine Color, Sort, and Optimize my stitch length is checked. Now, that's because I'm going to send the design directly from my software to my sewing machine. If you weren't going to do that, you could do that when you do the export and save it as your, and do the export and actually do the, you can select those at that time. So we're going to get started. The other thing we want to do, so I'm going to go to the View tab, and I'm going to change the grid to 5. It's just so that we can kind of see where everything is kind of going to go. It makes it much easier when we get started. So we're going to go to the Create tab. And one of the things we have is Word Sculpt. And Word Sculpt lets me do a couple of different things. And there's all kinds of different shapes that we can pick on. So I'm going to go over here to the right of shape, and underneath where that bird is at, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to be going down to Shapes and Symbols. And the one I want to pick on is the octagon, which is octagon 1. It looks like this. It's got 8 sides. And it defaults to being a satin stitch around here, and I really don't want that. But there's a couple of things I need to do first. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size to 110. Now, when I change the width size, because proportional is selected, it automatically changes the height here. So that's good. I'm not going to change the angle, but I do only want just a basic running stitch to go around the outside edge. This is just kind of holding everything in place for me, and will help with when I add those satin stitches later. We're going to hit Next. And then one of the things that, because we're in Word Sculpt, it automatically is going to go in and pick on and add some words. I'm going to highlight those and just delete them. Then I'm going to hit Finish. I now have an octagon on my screen. So now I need to start adding all these extra little rings that go around. If you look at the picture, original picture, you'll see that there are different rows in here. So I'm just going to go back again to Word Sculpt. This time, instead of being the 110, I'm going to change this to 90. Notice it automatically did that. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a triple stitch. And that's so that it's a little bit heavier and it's going to be more important, because the original outside one is all going to get covered with a satin stitch. So I want this to be a triple. I'm going to do Next. There shouldn't be any words up here. I'm going to hit Finish. And now my next row of stitches is here. So you'll notice I'm going to start creating this. So now I'm going to go to Word Sculpt again. Still, the octagon is still chosen. I'm then going to go and I'm going to change that 120 down to 70, which makes it a little bit smaller. I want it still the triple stitch. I'm going to do Next. Again, the words aren't there. I'm going to do Finish. So now let's do another one. Word Sculpt. My shape is still there, but this time the size I want is going to be 50. And I still want a triple. I'm going to do Next. No words. Finish. And one more. We're going to do Word Sculpt again. Still has the octagon shape, but this time I'm going to change it to 30. Still the triple stitch. I'm going to do Next. No words, so we can hit Finish. This last one, because of the order I'm going to stitch this, I want this to be different than the blue. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to double check on here, and I'm just going to pick on a green. It doesn't matter what colors I actually use because I'm going to pick my own thread colors as I get moving. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the letter tab. We're going to change this category. We're going to go category and we're looking for traditional, and the one I want is line block, and the size I want is 5 millimeters. So we're going to create a bunch of different needle types. So the first thing I want to do is actually, if you select outside of here, it will start putting your words right down here in the center. So the first one I'm going to type in is denim. And just hit apply. And then the next one I want is stretch. Apply. Universal. Apply. Universal embroidery. And I'm doing these individually because I want to be able to move them around individually. Top stitch, quilting, leather, and microtex. So that's going to basically cover all of the different needle types. There are others out there, but we're just going to pick on these. You can choose whatever ones you want to when you actually do your own. So we're going to have microtext should already be selected, and I'm actually going to just kind of move it over into the general area. And I'm going to go through each of these, and I'm going to move them around to where I want them. It doesn't really matter because we're going to change some of the order. I want leather, and I want leather to be kind of right there in the center. I'm going to do quilting, and I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to do top stitch, move it into that area. Embroidery, I'm moving to the top. Oh, now be careful when you're grabbing these, because if you grab that center, it changes that center rotation. I'm going to hit undo. Now grab embroidery again. And I want it to kind of set kind of in the center there up at the top between those two rows of stitches. And I'm going to do universal and slide it over here, stretch over here, and denim down here. Now the big thing is, as we start doing those, we don't want them to sit like this. We actually want to turn them. Now leather and embroidery are perfectly fine, but let's start with microtext. And what I want to do is I want to rotate that a little bit. I can do a right mouse button, go to edit lettering, and see this is my rotation. So it's kind of like, looks like a compass. I'm going to change that to 135. Do OK, and move it kind of into place. And you're going to eyeball this. This is not going to be a big, it's going on felt. It's going to be so small that you're not going to tell that it's too terribly off. So let's go, let's pick on denim, right mouse, edit and lettering. I'm going to change this one to 225. And again, move it kind of into place so you like it. Stretch. I'm going to do right mouse, edit lettering, and this time I'm going to use 270. Move it into place, kind of between this point and that point. Oh, and you notice when I do that, what happens when I select a different spot, I'm now going to lose these. So now I can actually come down here. I love this film strip part of it. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pick on universal. And universal, I'm going to rotate it so it is, hang on. Universal is at 315. Now these instructions are in my Linda's Stitchens group, and you have to request to join them. Join that group in order to get these instructions. So, and when you do, you have to answer some questions. You can't just go in and be part of the group. So I've got top stitch now, and I'm going to turn it, right click, and I'm going to do 45 degrees. I'm going to do quilting, and quilting is going to get turned so it is at 90. Now remember, you could sit there and turn that little circle part and actually move them around, and I'm not going to do it that way. I'm actually, because I wanted to be a little bit more precise on how they turned. I don't like where the top stitch is at. I'm going to move it down a little bit. Microtext. So we've got those all done. If you notice, if you have the printed instructions or you're looking at the actual instructions, it's actually, I have a picture of what that should look like. So now what we're going to go is we're still in the letters tab. Let's make sure nothing else is selected, and now we need to put in all the different sizes. So the way I found I did, I listed all the different sizes that I want to use. Now you could do whatever you want. If you think, I'm going to move this over a little bit. You could do whatever sizes you wanted. I just chose these kind of randomly. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 100. And I'm going to do apply. It's going to move it into the center, but I actually want the 100. Now I listed where they all should go. There's a 100 that goes with leather, and I'm going to take, when you slide, don't forget, you want to watch for those 4 arrows, and I'm going to move leather here. And then I'm going to do a Control D just to duplicate it. Now I could hit apply and it would do the same thing. But the other place I want the 100 is actually at denim. And these we aren't going to rotate. Now if you want to rotate them, you can. I just chose not to. I just kind of want to make sure that it's between this line and that line. The next place 100 is at is I'm going to put it next to top stitch. So I can do a Control D. And take this and I'm going to slide it up here so it's in between those 2 lines. Next number I need, so I have 3 of those. So now what I want to do is I actually want to get, the next one is 90. So I'm going to highlight that and do 90 and do apply. And I'm going to end up needing 8 of those. So the first one I'm going to put at microtext. Now you notice there isn't anything higher than 90 for microtext, so I'm going to just put that one right there. Then the next one is denim, so I'm going to do a Control D. Make sure I get the 4 arrows, and I'm going to put that one there. Control D, and there's actually with the stretch, there's a 90, and I'm going to put that one there. Control D, and I'm going to move that one up. Next to universal, and I'm going to do Control D again, and these pretty much all have it. So embroidery, Control D. I'm going to do that at top stitch. Now you notice there's already a 100 there, so I'm just going to kind of line that up somewhere in there. And then quilting, Control D. I'm going to do the 90, and that should be all of them. Oh, nope, I've missed leather one. So Control D, and I need a leather. Now the next one I'm going to do is size 80. So I'm going to do highlight this and do an 80. Apply. And the 80 is going to go at microtext. So I'm just going to pause this and get them all done, and then I think you get the idea of what needs to happen. Okay, so I just placed my last one, which was a 70, and this is what you should end up with. Now you could go through and start moving them around if you wanted to, because, again, making sure that you are making sure that these are actually, you get that 4 arrows instead of the cross. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and start grouping some of these things together. And we're going to go over to the Home tab. And to the right of Box Select, there's this little drop down, and we're going to pick on Freehand Select. Now, you could do Point Select too. I just found this was pretty quick and easy by doing Freehand Select. I'm going to hold my mouse down, and I'm actually going to drag and draw a box or a circle or whatever you want to call it around those. I'm going to let go of my left mouse, right mouse, and I'm going to do Combine Selected. So that now becomes one. And I'm going to do the same thing with each of these. I'm going to come freehand select. Now, even if I grab part of stretch, it doesn't matter. As long as I don't grab 100% of those, the drawing will actually ignore those. I'm going to do freehand select. I'm going to do embroidery. Again, I can grab any of this because now that's all been selected together. If you find that you did miss something, and I'll show you that here in a second, I'm going to do combine selected. Again, do the same thing, freehand select. So let's say I only grab part of some of this, and you notice I get that group. I don't want that. So I can actually come up here and do freehand select again and do that draw again and do a right mouse and combine selected. So if you miss again, I'll do that again. So let's say I grabbed all of quilting, but only part of 75. And if you notice, I don't have everything, so I could just go up here, do freehand select again. If I grab part of cross stitch and everything else, I'm good because it didn't have 100% of that particular part up there. So I'm going to do combine selected, and then I'm going to do it again. Right mouse, combine selected. So I didn't do leather yet, so I'm just going to kind of, or denim, but I'm going to show you if I do the other, which is point select, I can do point select, and I can actually point, and I'm going to hold down my shift key, and so 100% of what I want to take are 80, 90, 100 in leather. I'm going to do a right mouse button again, and do combine selected. So you have a couple of ways to do it. If you're not very good at the drawing part of it, do it that way. So I'm going to do so let's do that one again. I'll do point select. I'm going to just click in here. I'm going to hold my shift key down, grab 100%. Oh, it's not quite grabbing 100% of that. So I might actually want to move that in there so I get another, so I make sure I have 100% of the things I want to be grouped together. Right mouse, and I'm going to do combine selected. Okay, so now what I want to do is over here on the film strip, so I want to group all of these together as one thing before I do this next step. So I'm going to actually make sure that 13 is selected. I'm going to hold my shift key, click on it, then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to come to the top one and select it. And if you notice, those are all now highlighted. I'm going to do a right mouse and I'm going to do combine selected. And this time I'm actually going to do a color sort. Now, if you wanted some of these to be different, if you wanted your words to be a different color, you would have had to done this in a different step. But for those that actually have either Elite or the Platinum version, you get to do one additional step, which is kind of a nice one. So I'm going to actually go, and now that I've combined this, I'm going to do a right mouse button. I'm going to do Edit in Stitch Editor. And Stitch Editor is automatically going to pop up. And look at all those little trim commands. If you cannot see all these little T's, and so what that is I'm going to do the T, it's going to do a trim. It's going to do the O, it's going to do a trim. You can actually get rid of a lot of these. So let me show you. If you can't see these, go to the View tab, select Commands, and you'll be able to see that. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go back to the Modify tab where it says Trim Commands. You get this, if I select Trim Commands, I get these two pop-ups. I'm going to say remove all of them. So there isn't a trim command there at all. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say automatically add trim commands back. So it's going to add some of them back in. But if you notice, some places they're not there. So I actually want to do, so there's a jump between 90 and 75, and there's a jump between 190 and a jump between 90 and 80. It didn't automatically add all of them in. Everybody's is going to be different. So don't think that yours is going to be exactly the same. So what I want to do is I'm going to add some additional trim commands, and I'm actually going to zoom into my areas. I'm going to zoom in here first, and see this is a jump. I'm going to say insert a trim command, and I'm going to just click on that jump there, and that jump there, it's now gone. I'm going to click on this one, click on this one, click on this one, and those are all now gone. So it's going to do the 100 trim and then go up. Now, I also like to turn off my jump stitch trim commands in my software or in my machine, but that's personal preference. But I just wanted you to see you could actually do this, and it sure does clean up those messes at the back of your embroidery designs, because otherwise it would have done a trim after every little letter, and I didn't want to do that. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom to fit. And I'm just going to I'm going to close this. Now I could either close it by doing that X up there, or I could go to File and then Exit. So I'm just going to do this. Automatically saved all those particular things that makes it so that there's not as many trims. So if you have gold or extra, you can't do that, but you can just turn off your trim commands and actually do all the trimming yourself. Do that, shut off your scissors in your embroidery machine itself. So now we're going to go over to the SuperDesign tab, and I'm going to go to the category of home. I'm going to pick on the needle and thread, and I'm going to change the size to 23. You could put anything you wanted in the center. If you want to put your initial in there, you could do that too. But I decided I like the needle and thread to go there. Okay, so the way this is going to stitch out at the moment, it's going to stitch this, and this. But at this point, or close to it, I'm going to add, once all my initial stuff is all stitched, I'm going to add a piece of batting and another piece of felt, and I'm going to slide it up underneath my hoop. So I need to create this basting stitch to kind of hold that in place. So to do that, I'm actually going to go over to the Frame tab. I'm going to make sure nothing is selected. I'm going to pick on Border. I'm going to change the margin to 0. I'm going to do just a running stitch, and because I want it to be a basting stitch that's easy to come out, I'm going to click on Stitch Type. I'm going to do running stitch, and I'm going to change that to a 6. So that kind of makes them like big stitches. It's just kind of hold that batting and the backing in place. Now what I want to do is make sure that nothing is selected, because if I had anything selected, it would create that basting stitch around whatever's selected. This way, with nothing selected, it's going to look at the outside edge of the frame. And I'm going to do apply, and it's going to stick it there. Now you could go in here and change the color here so that it doesn't try and stitch before any of your other stuff, because remember, blue is always that first color that's going to try and stitch. So you want to kind of keep that from happening. Now, once I've done that, I really want this green here to actually stitch once I have my backing felt and my batting in place. I don't want it to stitch before that. That's kind of why we changed that to green. So I'm going to pick on that last one of the octagons, and I'm going to actually move it to the end. So by selecting this down here and say stitch last. So now what will happen is it'll stitch this, 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 this. It'll do all my letters and numbers. It's going to do my needle in the center. Slide that piece of felt and batting up underneath your hoop. If you want to hold it and tape it in place, you can do that. I tend to take it off the machine, add that, and then put it back on the machine, kind of holding it in place. Do that basting stitch. Then it will stitch this and kind of give it a little puffiness. It'll kind of puff the center up, and these will all be nice and flat. Now the last thing we need to do is to add that satin stitch that's going to go around the whole thing. Not around the basting, but around this here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go back to the Create tab. We're going to pick on Word Sculpt. This time I want this to be 115. And you notice that octagon is still saved, and it's going to continue to save that until you open up a brand new version of another window of your software. So we're going to do stitch type as being the satin stitch. I'm going to actually go into options so you can see what you can do here. I can actually change that to a different size width. I can also change the density. So remember, the higher the number, the further apart the stitches. So if I wanted to go to like a 10, it's going to make it more like a zigzag kind of looking stitch. But I'm going to leave it at 4. I'm going to do OK. I'm going to do next. No words are here, which is a good thing. I'm going to do finish. And again, you can change this color to something totally different. Doesn't really matter. I chose to stitch everything except the needle here in the center, all with the same thread. So everything I did was actually purple, but in the picture it looks like it's pink, but it's really a purple, like a real deep, a dark purple. But don't forget, you want to go up to Save As. You can go to File, Save As. Oops, wrong place. I'm going to go with Blast from the Past, needle holder, and call it whatever you want to call it. And then you want to do your export. Now, if you're going to do here, you notice we did this as part of the preferences, and that's because I knew I was going to send my machine or my design directly to my machine. But if I'm just going to save it to my computer, I can actually come in here and then select each of those. So that's personal preference. Stitch one out and actually share it on the Linda Stitchens group page, and we'll see how many other of my blasts from the past or whatever you want to call my throwbacks. So I'm going to be going through some of my older software classes that I did and actually try to put these together as videos. They'll be sporadic. I'm not sure when I'm going to do them, but they were kind of fun and simple little things that kind of got us comfortable with using our software. The big difference between the older software and the newer software is we have this thing called Word Sculpt, and we have the film strip to move things around. So it sure did make things a whole lot easier in the long run. Again, hope I see some of them stitched out. Thanks.